I didn't confess, and after beating me for weeks, they sent me to labor camp, only 15. In the labor camp, I was only allowed to eat 150 kernels of corn a day.
Imagine being born in prison, not for anything you did, not for anything your parents did, but for crimes committed by your grandparents. Imagine spending your entire life behind barbed wire, never knowing the outside world exists, never tasting freedom, never knowing love. This is not a dystopian novel. This is real life in North Korea, where up to 120,000 people are imprisoned in a network of political prison camps so brutal, so isolated that survivors compare them to Nazi concentration camps. Some call it North Korea's gulag. Others call it hell on earth. Today, we're diving into one of the world's darkest secrets, a system of camps where 3 generations of families are punished for one person's supposed crime, where prisoners work until they die, where public executions are routine, where hope doesn't exist. To understand North Korea's prison camps, you need to understand one terrifying principle: 3 generations of punishment. This policy, established by Kim Il-sung in the 1950s, states that if you commit a political crime, your entire family pays the price. Not just you, your parents, your siblings, your children, your grandchildren, all sentenced to life in a labor camp. The theory? If your grandfather was a counter-revolutionary, you must have inherited his treasonous thoughts, so entire bloodlines must be eliminated. This isn't about punishment, it's about extermination. North Korea operates 6 main political prison camps, known as Kwanliso. According to human rights organizations and satellite imagery, between 80,000 and 120,000 people are imprisoned in these camps right now. Many were born there. Many will die there. And the North Korean government officially denies these camps even exist. The camps are hidden in remote mountain valleys, completely cut off from the world. They are divided into 2 zones: total control zones, where prisoners are sentenced to life and worked to death, and revolutionary zones where prisoners might theoretically be released if they're reformed, though few ever are. Shin Dong-hyuk is one of the most famous North Korean defectors in the world. Why? Because he claims to be the only person ever born in a North Korean political prison camp who successfully escaped to tell his story. Shin was born in 1982 at Camp 14, also known as Kachon, in the mountains north of Pyongyang. His parents were prisoners, paired together by guards as a reward marriage for good work. They had no choice in the matter. They were breeding tools, producing the next generation of slave laborers. Shin's childhood was unimaginable. He grew up believing the camp was the entire world. He didn't know countries existed. He didn't know the earth was round. He thought people were born to be prisoners and guards were born to carry guns. In his own words, "I had no concept of family love. My mother and I competed for food. I never trusted anyone. Kindness didn't exist. The only law was survival." Shin received minimal education, just enough to follow orders. Then, like all child prisoners, he was put to work. He witnessed children being beaten to death for stealing food. He saw public executions as field trips. Death was normal. Suffering was life. In 1996, when Shin was 13 years old, his life became even darker. One night, he overheard his mother and older brother planning to escape. Terrified, because prisoners are taught that even knowing about an escape plan is punishable by death, Shin reported them to a guard. He thought he was protecting himself. He didn't realize what he'd just done. The guards arrested his mother and brother. Then they came for Shin. Despite reporting them, he was tortured for months in an underground prison. Guards suspended him over a fire, burning his back and legs. They wanted to know if he was involved in the escape plan. He screamed that he wasn't. They burned him anyway. The scars on Shin's body are still visible today. Medical experts who examined him confirmed these are consistent with severe electrical burns and prolonged torture. Then came the worst part. After months of torture, guards forced Shin to watch as his mother and brother were executed. His mother was hanged. His brother was shot by firing squad. Shin was 13 years old. Years later, Shin would say, "I didn't feel sadness. I felt anger. Anger that their stupid escape plan had caused me pain. That's how the camp trained us. They destroyed our humanity. Shin spent years working in the camp, in coal mines, fields, factories. Life was brutal, and he accepted it as normal, but in 2005, everything changed. A new prisoner arrived, a man who had lived outside the camp. He told Shin about the world beyond the fences, about food, about cities, about freedom. Shin later admitted, it wasn't freedom I wanted. It was food. I heard there was meat and rice outside. That's all I cared about. Food. One day, Shin and his friend made a run for the electrified fence surrounding the camp. The friend went first. He was electrocuted instantly, his body caught in the wires. Shin didn't hesitate. He used his friend's body as insulation, climbed over the fence, and ran. His legs were badly burned from the electric shock, but he was free. Shin made it to China, then eventually to South Korea and the United States. He became an international advocate for North Korean human rights, testifying before the United Nations. In 2015, Shin admitted that some details of his story were inaccurate. He'd mixed up which camps he was in and when certain events happened. Critics pounced, calling him a liar. But human rights experts defended him, pointing out that trauma survivors often have fragmented memories, especially those who suffered childhood torture. The core facts remain undisputed. Shin was born in a North Korean prison camp. He was tortured. He has the scars to prove it. He escaped, and Camp 14 exists. We can see it on satellite imagery. Because North Korea refuses to allow access to the camps, much of what we know comes from satellite imagery and defector testimony. Organizations like the Committee for Human Rights in North Korea and Amnesty International have spent years analyzing these images. Camp 14, where Shin was born, covers about 155 square kilometers. That's roughly the size of Washington, D.C. Camp 16, the largest, is 560 square kilometers, 3 times the size of D.C. These aren't small facilities. They're entire prison regions. The satellite images show everything. Guard towers, barbed wire fences, housing blocks, farms, mines, factories. You can see roads, villages for guards' families, crematoriums. In some images, you can even track the expansion of camps over time, watching as new buildings appear and prisoner populations grow. Camp 15, also known as Yodok, once held 50,000 prisoners. Amnesty International's analysis in 2013 showed new housing being built, proving the camps were expanding, not closing. By 2023, some structures had been demolished, but security fencing and watchtowers remained. The camps are still operational. Kang Chol-Huan was 9 years old when soldiers came to his home in Pyongyang in 1977. His grandfather, a Korean-Japanese businessman, had been accused of treason. Under the 3 generations rule, Kang's entire family was sentenced to Camp 15 at Yodok. Kang went from a comfortable middle-class life in the capital to a frozen mountain prison in a single day. No trial, no explanation, just a truck ride to hell. Kang spent 10 years in Yodok. He later wrote a memoir, The Aquariums of Pyongyang, describing the horror in detail. Prisoners at Yodok worked 12 to 16 hours a day in mines, fields, and logging operations. Rations were barely enough to survive, corn and cabbage soup, sometimes with rats or insects for protein. Starvation was constant. Kang watched people die from malnutrition, disease, and work accidents. Guards beat prisoners regularly. Public executions were held to terrify the camp population into submission. Kang wrote, "I saw a woman publicly executed because she was caught with 5 kernels of corn in her pocket. 5 kernels. The guards dragged her in front of the entire camp and shot her as a warning to the rest of us. Obey or die." In 1987, after 10 years, Kang's family was released. It's rare, but it happens. Prisoners in the revolutionary zone can sometimes be freed if they're deemed sufficiently reformed. Kang returned to Pyongyang, but he never forgot. In 1992, he defected to South Korea. Kang's memoir became an international bestseller, bringing global attention to the camps. he became a leading voice for North Korean human rights. Today, he runs a newspaper and advocacy organization in Seoul, continuing to expose the regime's crimes. According to defector testimonies and a 2014 United Nations Commission of Inquiry report, life in the camps is designed to break you. Prisoners wake before dawn and work 12 to 16 hours in coal mines.
김정일에 대해서는 이제 반년 만에 이제 반년 나가 갇히겠다는 거 있잖아요. 평양에서 했던 거. 그러고 나서 김정일이 얘기를 한 몇 번, 서너 번 들었었는데 그때는 그 사람이 누구냐 하고 생각했었어요. 전혀 관심이 없었고. 내가 전혀 몰랐는데 뭐 24년 동안 몰랐는데 그 사람이 한번 김정일이라고 해가지고 모르잖아요. 전혀 모르고 살았는데. 뭐 북한 사람들도 김정일에 대해서 아는 것도 수십 년 동안 교육받고 했으니까 잘 아는 거지. 24년 동안 모르고 있다가 서너 번 말했다고 해서 어떻게 알아요. 그래서 내 주체사상이나 김일성 기억이 나고 일사상책에 처음 들어봤던 일사상책에 대해서 전혀 그런 게 없어요.
그럼 수용소 안에서 이렇게 막 일을 할 때 내가 왜 이 일을 하고 있는지 그런 의문이 든 적도 없어요?
그런 건 생각을 여지.
Logging operations in agricultural fields. Work accidents are common. Medical care is non-existent. If you're injured, you're left to die. The food rations are calculated to the minimum caloric intake needed to keep prisoners alive, but just barely. Malnutrition is universal. Prisoners catch and eat rats, snakes, and insects to survive. Many don't survive. Former guard An Myong-chol testified that he once saw children fighting over corn kernels found in cow dung. Guards are trained to view prisoners as subhuman. A former guard testified to the UN that prisoners are tortured for the smallest infractions, talking back, failing to meet work quotas, or being caught with extra food. Methods of torture include beating with metal rods, water torture, being forced to kneel motionless for days, solitary confinement in boxes so small you can't stand or lie down, and being hung by the wrists with arms tied behind the back. Women face sexual violence. Pregnant women are forced to have abortions. Public executions are routine. Prisoners who attempt to escape are executed in front of the entire camp. One survivor testified, "I saw 3 executions. Those executed included people caught trying to escape. None of them succeeded. They were always caught, interrogated for months, then killed." Women in the camps face unique horrors. A 2024 report by Korea Future documented invasive body searches, including vaginal and anal inspections, used to humiliate and degrade female prisoners. Sexual violence by guards is systematic. Children born in the camps grow up in indescribable conditions. They receive minimal education, just enough to understand orders. They work from a young age. They witness executions. Many die before adulthood from malnutrition, disease, or accidents. An Myong-chol worked as a guard at Camp 22, one of the largest and most brutal camps from the 1980s until the mid-1990s. After defecting to South Korea, he became one of the few former guards willing to speak publicly about what happens inside. An's testimony is chilling because it reveals the systematic dehumanization of both prisoners and guards. Guards, he explained, are trained from day one to view prisoners as enemies of the state who deserve no mercy. In his words, "We were taught that these prisoners were not human. They were class enemies, traitors. We could do anything to them. Beating them wasn't violence, it was discipline." An witnessed countless horrors. He described prisoners being forced to dig their own graves before execution. He saw women raped by officers, then disappearing. He watched as emaciated prisoners collapsed from exhaustion and were left to die where they fell. One of An's most haunting testimonies involves an execution method used at Camp 22. Prisoners would be forced to dig a deep pit, then guards would kill them with hammer blows to the neck. The bodies were buried immediately, often in unmarked mass graves. Perhaps most disturbing is what An revealed about contingency plans. According to his testimony and reports from other defectors, guards have standing orders. If the Kim regime collapses, or if North Korea faces a crisis, they are to execute all political prisoners immediately. That's right. If the government falls, 120,000 people would be murdered to eliminate witnesses. This isn't speculation, it's official policy. In 2014, after a year-long investigation, the United Nations Commission of Inquiry on Human Rights in North Korea released a 400-page report documenting the regime's crimes. The findings were devastating. The commission interviewed 80 witnesses publicly and 240 more in confidential sessions. They reviewed satellite imagery, leaked documents, and decades of research. Their conclusion was unambiguous. North Korea has committed and continues to commit crimes against humanity in its political prison camps. Specifically, the UN found evidence of extermination through starvation and forced labor, murder through public and secret executions, enslavement, torture, rape and sexual violence, forced abortion and infanticide, and persecution on political grounds. The Commission recommended that the UN Security Council refer North Korea to the International Criminal Court. But China and Russia, permanent members with veto power, blocked any action. So the camps remain. The killing continues, and the world looks away. Michael Kirby, the Australian judge who led the commission, made a stunning comparison. He said the camps in North Korea are as terrible as, or even worse than, the Nazi concentration camps he saw as a child survivor of Auschwitz. Navi Pillay, former UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, stated, "There is not a comparable situation anywhere in the world, past or present." That's how bad it is. North Korea's camps are unique in their cruelty, even among the world's worst human rights abusers. Despite international condemnation, the camps remain operational. In fact, they've gotten worse. During the COVID-19 pandemic, North Korea sealed its borders and imposed brutal restrictions on movement inside the country. This made life even harder for the general population and likely increased camp detentions. In 2023, the regime enacted the Pyongyang Cultural Language Protection Act, making it a crime to use South Korean language or watch foreign media. Violators can be sentenced to 6 years of forced labor, or even death. One trial in 2023 resulted in 17 young people being sentenced for watching unsanctioned videos and using South Korean vocabulary. The number of prisoners in the camps has decreased slightly from 150,000 to 200,000 in the 1990s to 80,000 to 120,000 today. But this isn't because of reform. Many prisoners simply died. And the 3 generations policy has been somewhat relaxed, though it's still enforced in many cases. Recent satellite analysis shows that some camps have been partially demolished or downsized, but others remain fully operational. Camp 25, Camp 14, Camp 15, Camp 16, and Camp 18 are all confirmed to still exist as of 2024. North Korea's official response to all of this? Complete denial. The government insists there are no political prison camps. Any detention facilities, they claim, are merely re-education centers where criminals learn to become productive citizens. They call defector testimonies lies, fabricated by South Korea and the United States. They dismiss satellite imagery as fake. They refuse to allow the UN Commission of Inquiry to visit. And when Shin Dong-hyuk admitted some details of his story were confused, North Korea held it up as proof that all defectors are liars. But the evidence is overwhelming. We have satellite images. We have consistent testimonies from dozens of survivors. We have testimony from former guards. We have leaked documents. The camps are real. Right now, as you watch this video, tens of thousands of people are suffering in North Korea's prison camps. Children are being born into slavery. Families are being worked to death. Political prisoners are being tortured for crimes they didn't commit. This isn't ancient history. This isn't a far-off problem. This is happening today, in 2025, on the same planet we live on. The world knows. The United Nations knows. But powerful countries like China and Russia protect North Korea from accountability. So the camps remain, and the suffering continues. Shin Dong-hyuk, despite the controversy over his story's details, continues to speak out, because he knows the truth. The camps exist. The torture is real, and 120,000 people are still trapped inside. If this opened your eyes, share it. support organizations like the Committee for Human Rights in North Korea, Human Rights Watch, and Liberty in North Korea. These organizations work tirelessly to document the camps, support defectors, and pressure governments to act. Because the only thing worse than knowing this horror exists is staying silent about it.
도움이 되는 거예요. 그게 음식이 내장 자체가. 그래가지고 살 수 있지만은 그래도 배고프거든요. 중량 딱 지정된 밥 양이니까.